an eye torn from its socket in a brutal fight between gods. You'd think it would become a symbol of loss, of defeat, but instead it became a key to resurrection, a shield against chaos, and somehow a mathematical formula for perfection. This isn't just some myth. For the ancient Egyptians, this was a real technology of the soul, a blueprint for harnessing the powers of the universe. And the story begins, not with a symbol, but with a scream, a moment of divine violence that would echo for thousands of years, embedding itself into the very fabric of magic, medicine, and mortality. We're about to uncover how the most famous symbol of ancient Egypt was born from its most violent story, and how that violence was transformed into a sophisticated spiritual tool that promised to make the broken whole again. Our story starts in a golden age, when the gods walked the earth. The land of Egypt was a paradise, ruled by the wise and benevolent god, Osiris. He was the great civilizer, teaching humanity farming and law, giving them music and laughter. By his side was his sister wife, the brilliant goddess Isis, a master of magic whose power was second to none. They ruled in perfect harmony, and the world thrived. But paradise is a fragile thing. Osiris had a brother, Set, the god of the desert, chaos, and violent storms. Where Osiris was ordered, Set was entropy. Where Osiris built, Set wanted to tear it all down. From his desolate red lands, he stared at his brother's green kingdom, and his heart burned with a jealousy as hot as the desert sun. He craved power, reverence, and the throne. And so, in the shadows, Set began to plot a murder. But Set was a coward, not just a brute. He didn't challenge Osiris openly. His plan was pure deception. He secretly measured his brother's body and had the finest artisans build a magnificent chest, a sarcophagus of unparalleled beauty. When it was done, Set threw a grand feast for all the gods. The hall was full of music and light. At the height of the party, Set unveiled his masterpiece. He announced that this glorious chest would be a gift to whichever god could fit perfectly inside. One by one, they tried, laughing as they failed. Finally, it was Osiris's turn. Smiling, suspecting nothing from his brother, he lay down inside. It was a perfect fit. In that instant, the laughter died. Before Osiris could move, Set slammed the lid shut. His conspirators rushed in, hammering it shut with nails and sealing it with molten lead. The party had become a funeral. The horrified gods watched as Set and his followers dragged the chest out and hurled it into the Nile. The king was gone. Chaos had seized the throne. The grief of Isis was a storm that dwarfed any of Set's making. She tore her robes and set out on a desperate search for her husband. After a long and perilous journey, she found the chest, now encased in a massive tree. She retrieved her husband's body and, using her magic, conceived a son with the lifeless Osiris, a son who would be the heir to the throne and the instrument of their revenge. His name was Horus. Isis knew Set would kill the child to secure his rule. So she fled into the dense Nile Delta marshes to give birth in secret. There, among the reeds, she raised the falcon-headed god, hiding him from his murderous uncle. She filled his heart with the story of his father's murder and the knowledge that he was the rightful king. Horus grew into a powerful young god, his blood burning with a single purpose: avenge his father and take back his kingdom. When he came of age, Horus emerged, his eyes blazing, and challenged Set for the throne. This wasn't a single duel. It was a war that raged for 80 long years, a clash of titans, a struggle between order and chaos. They fought as men, their weapons shaking the earth. They transformed into giant beasts, battling as crocodiles and hippos, churning the Nile into a violent froth. The other gods tried to judge the conflict, but even they were divided. Some sided with Set's strength, others with Horus' legitimate claim. The war reached its brutal climax in one final, desperate battle. The exact details are a bit hazy, shifting with each telling of the tale, but the core of what happened is pure horror. In the heat of the fight, Set overpowered his nephew. He pinned him down and with a terrible act of violence, gouged out Horus's left eye. In some versions, he rips it out with his bare hands. In others, he tramples it into the dirt. The world went dark for Horus. He was wounded, mutilated, his claim to the throne broken. The left eye, which the Egyptians associated with the moon, was extinguished. It seemed like chaos had won. But the story wasn't over. The shattered eye was found, some say, by the goddess Hathor. But in the most common telling, it was Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and magic, the one who understood how the universe was built. With his infinite knowledge, Thoth painstakingly reassembled the broken pieces of the eye. He healed the wound and, with a final act of divine magic, breathed life back into it. But he didn't just repair the eye, he made it more powerful. It was now the Wedjat eye, meaning the whole or the restored one. It had been to the brink of destruction and back, and in that journey, it had absorbed the magic of healing itself. And what was the first thing Horus did with his new eye? It wasn't to seek revenge. He journeyed into the Duat, the shadowy realm of the dead, to find his father's spirit. He presented the Wedjat eye to Osiris, not as a war trophy, but as an offering of life. The eye's restorative magic pulsed through Osiris, revitalizing him and making him the eternal lord of the underworld. With his sacrifice, Horus had not only healed himself, but had conquered death for his father, and by extension, for all of humanity. This single myth of betrayal, mutilation, and miraculous restoration became the foundation for one of history's most powerful symbols. The eye ripped from a god's face was no longer a wound. It was a promise that anything broken could be made whole again. The war between Horus and Set wasn't just a divine soap opera. For the Egyptians, this was a blueprint for understanding existence itself. It was the eternal battle between order and chaos, life and death. And at the very heart of this blueprint was the restored eye, the Wedjat. It became the focal point where the lessons of the myth could be distilled into a usable, powerful force. This was the birth of spiritual technology. First and foremost, the eye meant wholeness and restoration. The name itself, Wedjat, says it all. The whole one. Its journey from shattered to reassembled was the perfect metaphor for healing. An injury was a temporary win for the forces of Set. But healing? That was the magic of Thoth and the power of Horus, restoring the body to its intended whole state. And they believed the symbol itself held this power. To invoke the Eye of Horus was to invoke cosmic healing. Egyptian physicians used poultices and performed surgeries, but their medicine was inseparable from magic. They'd recite healing spells over a patient and place Wedjat amulets on the injury, marshalling the myth's power to help the body recover. But the genius of this spiritual technology is how incredibly sophisticated it was. The Egyptians weren't just poets, they were brilliant mathematicians. They took the symbol of the eye and broke it down into an elegant system of measurement, literally fusing magic with math. The distinct parts of the drawing were assigned fractions. The right side of the eye was 1/2. The pupil was 1/4, the eyebrow 1/8, the left side 1/16, the teardrop 1/32, and the final flourish 1/64. This wasn't just symbolic. Scribes used these fractions for everyday calculations, especially for measuring grain and medicine. It was a practical tool born from a divine story. But here's the brilliant part. If you add those fractions up, 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8 plus 1/16 plus 1/32 plus 1/64, you get 63/64. It's not whole. It's incomplete. And that missing 1/64? That was the magic of Thoth. It was the divine, unquantifiable piece that he used to bind the fragments and make the eye truly whole. True wholeness, they believed, couldn't be achieved by math or medicine alone. It always required a touch of magic, an element that transcended logic. This is the clearest example of the Eye of Horus as a true spiritual technology, a system for understanding the world that seamlessly blended the mystical and the material. With wholeness came protection. The restored eye was an ever-watchful guardian. Its power was meant to ward off evil. The eye didn't just fight evil, it repelled it. It's perfect. The whole nature was like a force field against the chaos of destruction. Wearing an Eye of Horus amulet meant placing yourself under divine protection, carrying a piece of cosmic order against unseen dangers, from scorpion stings and disease to malevolent spirits. Fishermen painted the eye on their boats, trusting it to see the way forward and guard them. It was a celestial shield in a hostile world. The technology of the eye was also deeply tied to sacrifice and offering. Remember, the first thing Horus did was give the eye to his father to grant him eternal life. This selfless act became the model for every religious offering in Egypt. When a priest presented food or incense to a god statue, they were ritually reenacting Horus's sacred gift. The offering became, symbolically, the Eye of Horus, a conduit of life-giving power to the deity. It was a tool for nourishing the gods and ensuring the continued stability of the universe. Finally, the Eye of Horus was a powerful symbol of legitimacy, especially for the pharaoh. Every king of Egypt was the living incarnation of Horus. Just as Horus defeated Set to claim his throne, the pharaoh's job was to defend order against chaos. By wearing the Wedjat eye in their crowns and on their scepters, the pharaohs were making a statement. I am the rightful heir. I am the protector of my people. The eye became a seal of royal power, proof that the king was guided by divine sight. This transformation, from a gruesome wound to a complex system of healing, math, and protection, is incredible. They didn't just tell stories. They built entire technologies of the soul from them. What part of this spiritual technology do you find most fascinating? The healing, the math, or the protection? Let us know in the comments. And if you're fascinated by how ancient myths continue to shape our world, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Our next journey into the lost knowledge of the ancients is one you won't want to miss. The power of the Wedjat eye wasn't locked away in temples. It was an essential technology used by everyone, from the cradle to the grave. Its most common application was as an amulet, a small portable piece of divine power. From the pharaoh to the farmer, millions of Egyptians wore the Eye of Horus for daily protection. The rich wore eyes of brilliant blue lapis lazuli or gleaming gold. Common people wore them made of faience, a vibrant blue-green ceramic that was itself a symbol of life and rebirth. And these weren't just jewelry, they were spiritual hardware. A mother would tie a small wedjat around her child's neck to ward off fevers. A soldier would tuck one under his armor as a shield against enemy blades. They were a constant, tangible connection to the forces of order and healing, preventative medicine, and spiritual insurance rolled into one. But it was in the face of death that this technology was used with its maximum intensity. The Egyptian afterlife was a perilous journey through an underworld filled with demons and terrifying guardians. To make it through, you needed a magical arsenal, and the Eye of Horus was your most important weapon. It started with mummification. To preserve the body, the embalmers had to make an incision on the left side to remove the organs. This cut was a wound, an echo of the mutilation set inflicted on Horus. To counteract this, a special wedjat amulet was placed directly over the embalming wound before wrapping began. It didn't just cover the cut, it ritually healed it, transforming the wound into a symbol of wholeness and sealing the body against corruption. Then, as the body was wrapped in hundreds of yards of linen, dozens, sometimes hundreds, of other amulets were tucked into the layers. Among the scarabs for rebirth and jed pillars for stability, Eye of Horus amulets were everywhere. They were sewn onto the shroud, placed over the heart, each one creating a web of magical defense that encased the entire body. The protection even extended to the coffin. A pair of large, stylized wedjat eyes was often painted on the outside of the sarcophagus, right where the deceased's head would be. These weren't just decorations, they were magical windows. It was believed they allowed the soul of the dead to look out from the tomb, to see the world of the living, and to witness the sunrise each morning. And it wasn't just about physical objects. In the funerary texts, like the Book of the Dead, the eye's power was invoked constantly. These texts were the soul's guidebook to the underworld. In some spells, the deceased would declare, "I am the Eye of Horus," identifying with the god to gain his power. They were given the magic words and the incantations needed to activate the power of the amulets they were buried with. This whole system, the healing amulet, the web of protection, the coffin's windows, the spoken spells, was a complete technology designed to ensure the ultimate goal: resurrection and eternal life. From the savage climax of a divine war to the quiet darkness of a sealed tomb, the journey of the Eye of Horus is a testament to the genius of ancient Egyptian spirituality. They took a story of violence and loss and turned it into a sophisticated, multi-layered technology of hope. The broken eye became the ultimate symbol of being made whole. The eye offered in sacrifice became the gift that sustained the gods and gave mortals eternal life. This wasn't just religion, it was an applied science of the soul. The wedjat eye was a tool, as real and necessary to the Egyptians as a farmer's plow. It was designed to repair, to protect, and to guide. And today, thousands of years later, the Eye of Horus still pulls us in. Its journey has continued, and many now see a remarkable resemblance between its shape and a cross-section of the human brain. The pineal gland, the thalamus, the so-called third eye. While this is a modern idea, not an ancient one, it shows how the symbol's ancient themes of perception, vision, and restoration still echo with our search for knowledge and enlightenment. Ultimately, the Eye of Horus teaches us that the most powerful symbols of peace can be forged in the fires of conflict. It reminds us that the fundamental human desire to be protected, to be healed, to be made whole is timeless. The world of the ancient Egyptians may have vanished, but their greatest spiritual technology, the wedjat eye, remains. It's a symbol of strength, a promise of restoration, and a window into a civilization that dared to believe that even in total darkness, the light of a single watchful eye could make all the difference. What ancient symbol or myth fascinates you the most? Is there another piece of spiritual technology you'd like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.